Okay, so let's get cracking. Let's get rocking. So welcome everyone to this session. My name is Tahira. I am the founder of The Chain Reaction, and I share mindfulness-based tools for emotional intelligence. So thank you so much for being here today to invest some time into your learning and exploring how you can support your organization during this interesting time. So before I share a more full introduction of myself, I'd like to share why we're here today and hear a little bit from you all. So at this point, I'll also mention a couple of housekeeping items. So today I'm joined by Latif, and Latif will be supporting today with collecting some questions as well as some other tech elements. So thank you so much, Latif, for being here. I've also muted everybody's mics to reduce distractions. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them into the chat and we will make sure that, that I address them. Also a note that the session will be recorded so that I can distribute it to you all afterwards as well. So let's move into a couple of questions here. So I've been hearing some various challenges that teams are facing now as we've transitioned into, working remotely. So I'd love to hear from all of you about what you love about your work and what are some of your biggest challenges right now. So Latif, if you can launch the first poll, we'll have poll 1 go through and you can enter your responses here. Just a couple things of what you love about your work as well as some of the challenges that you're facing. We'll give everybody a couple of seconds here to enter in. Okay, so let's go ahead and close up the poll and let's share the results. Let's see where everybody is at. Because often what happens is a lot of commonality between, what we're all experiencing. So let's see what some of the responses are. Okay, so let's see what came through here. Top piece about what we love about our work is the people I work with. Absolutely. And some of the challenges. Okay, so definitely pretty varied throughout all the different elements. Most common is overwhelmed stuff. So, you're here at the right place, right time, because this is exactly what we're going to talk about today. Challenges around communication and increased overwhelm, increased distractions due to new working environments and kids at home, feeling like you're on call 24/7. These are all some of the common challenges that I've been hearing. And the main two challenges have been facing overwhelm and kind of feeling helpless to move through challenging moments and setbacks. So as leaders and managers, I know that you want to help and support your teams. And trust me that I know that feeling because my background is in HR. So I understand that feeling of having an overflowing plate of tasks, along with the need to make your team feel valued and supported. We really want our team members to be effective with their time, feel safe at this time, and also know that they have a cheerleader in their court, which is you. So at the end of this session, I have a workshop that can be run for your teams that I'll discuss. And I'm actually really, really excited about it. And I'm really excited to share it with you because it's a new creation. So before we jump into some of the nitty gritty of what we're going to be talking about today, we're just going to do a short experiment here, just 90 seconds. I'm sure many of you are coming into this webinar from different headspaces, maybe thinking about work, kids, dinner, planning projects. And often our bodies are in one place while our minds are in another. So let's do a short practice to see what it would be like to fully bring our attention here right now. So before we do this, I invite you all to silence your phones and put aside any distractions you might have on your desk there. And also just know that after the session, I will send out a summary of the key points that we talk about. So don't worry about taking any notes. And I also encourage you to not multitask. I know this can be really, really difficult because we're basically conditioned to it. But I encourage you, to use this perhaps as an opportunity for a bit of a break, to really just sink in and be here. So what we're going to do is we're going to anchor our attention in the present moment by paying attention to our breath. And I will note that for some of us, the breath can actually make us feel more anxious, especially at a time like this. So I encourage you to tune into one of your senses and anchor your awareness there. So for example, the feeling of the chair beneath you. So whenever I say breath, please focus on your object of attention that you choose. So at this time, I'll recommend that you close your eyes or just lower your gaze so that you're not habitually looking around the room or at the screen. And on each breath in, say to yourself, breathing in, or soft texture on my legs, if that's the option of awareness that you chose. And on each breath out, say to yourself, breathing out. This is a way to keep the breath in your awareness. Whatever pace you're breathing at is totally fine. Just try to maintain a sense of focus on the breath or object. When you notice your mind wandering, that's okay. It's normal. Just simply and gently return your awareness to your breath or object. We'll stay here for a couple of seconds and I'll bring us back. When you feel ready, you can open your eyes gently, shuffle into your space, and just notice how you're feeling right now. Do you notice a shift in your state? Just think about that and kind of make a bit of a mental note, or feel free to share in the chat as well how you're feeling. Maybe see some common elements that come through. And let's see what it would be like to carry this sense of attention during our time together. So I'm going to share a little bit about myself. In my own professional life, I hit burnout at a young age, and I felt that stress was calling the shots in my life. I felt overwhelmed and lost and confused, and I didn't know how to find a path forward. I needed to take a step back to get clear on my goals and to take charge of my health and stress. So I started to dig deep into personal development courses and books, and I learned to meditate by attending a 10-day silent meditation course. These practices equipped me to manage stress, feel less overwhelmed, and mentally stronger to deal with mistakes and tough times. So essentially, all of these practices drastically changed the trajectory of my life and the quality of my life too. And I find that these feelings of being overwhelmed and controlled by stress are extremely common in our pre-pandemic life. And now it's heightened. We want to feel calm, we want to feel secure and confident, but we haven't been given the tools to navigate through tough times. So now I coach organizations in supporting their employees through mindfulness practices to develop emotional intelligence, which increases productivity, decreases stress, and ultimately empowers employees to take care for themselves more effectively. And this has a huge impact on their work-life performance. And now more than ever, our work lives and personal lives are incredibly intertwined as we're all at home at this moment. So I'll share with you how I do this. So I'm a certified teacher of the Search Inside Yourself program, and this is the mindfulness-based leadership course that was developed at Google. And I'm the only teacher of this course in Alberta. I have also completed 2 10-day silent meditation courses and have worked in a large global organization in HR, supporting 700 plus employees and small businesses as well. And I take all of this experience and share tools through my workshops. I've delivered courses at large tech firms like GoDaddy, nonprofit healthcare organizations, fitness facilities, and educational institutions for faculty. So the tools that I share are really tried and tested. So let's move into why you're all here and what we're going to talk about today. So today we're going to talk about why mindfulness is relevant right now. How do you practice mindfulness? Because it's not as mystic or daunting as it might seem. How you can help your teams by using me as a resource to solve some of these challenges like overwhelm that we spoke about earlier, that came up earlier in our poll. We'll also have some time for question and answers at the end. So please feel free to share your questions in the chat, and Latif will capture them, and then we'll address them. So our work is filled with things that are competing for our time and attention and energy. And this also is expanded broader than just our work. Now that we're working at home, this brings a whole new, meaning to the word of items that are competing for our time and attention. And this was already the case before the virus outbreak. And right now it's heightened with the addition of kids and partners and pets, which are in our workplaces. So we find ourselves in this world that we called a VUCA world. And what that stands for is it's a world that's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So right now, our world is more than ever is a VUCA world. So I'd like you all to just take a moment right here. Latif, if you can launch poll number 2 and select which word of these resonate with you most strongly, just based on however you're feeling right now. Okay, let's close up the poll. Hopefully everybody had a chance to enter something. And let's share the results. Let's see where we're at. Okay, yeah, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, definitely. I mean, I feel the same. It's really uncertain, and seems like things are changing day to day. And we're transitioning with this combination of a new normal as many of us continue to work from home. And we also need to stay fluid with the changes that are coming. So I feel like it's really important to share these tools that can help support us as we try to navigate forward to reduce these feelings of fear and anxiety and overwhelm and helplessness that come from being in this heightened VUCA world currently. So let's talk about why this is actually important. So I'm going to share some stats with you. As you can see, on average, we spend 47% of our time with our mind wandering. 70% of leaders report regularly being unable to be attentive in meetings, and 2% make time to enhance personal productivity. These are pretty astounding statistics. And keep in mind that this is what happens. This is just in a kind of a normal VUCA world, right? When we actually try to pay attention. So when things are extra volatile, extra uncertain, extra complex, and ambiguous, like right now, these stats are going to inevitably rise, right? And the result of that is that we're in this state of being on autopilot. So we just go through the motions of the day. We're not fully engaged with what we're doing. Our minds are being pulled in several different directions, leaving us to be less effective with our time, our energy, and with heightened distressed feelings. So you might be asking, how do you know if you're on autopilot? What does that actually look like? So these are some of the traits of what autopilot looks like. You might be distracted. So you're spaced out, kind of daydreaming, thinking about all the things on your to-do list. Or on the other end of the spectrum, we're frantic with emotion, trying to get a million things done at once. You might be worrying about the future of what's to come. As we saw, just in the poll, this level of uncertainty is definitely strong right now. And also reminiscing about the past, right? Maybe how life used to be. We might be less aware. And here's kind of the kicker, is that we might be acting from habit patterns and assumptions. Because this is what is ingrained in us, right? We are our habits. And when we're on autopilot, this creates stress because it can bring a whole other slew of drawbacks like emotional reactivity, mental tension, confusion, strain, emotional fatigue. And as managers and leaders, you know the impacts that these drawbacks can have on the number of absences from work, productivity levels, team communication, team morale and engagement. So the state of your employees directly impacts your bottom line. Now, I have some good news. Fortunately, we know that autopilot is not the only way it has to be. We have aspirations to feel calm, grounded, kind, and helpful to others. We've probably all had the experience at some point in our lives of feeling present. This might be in nature, perhaps in our work when we're really aligned. With other people, sometimes time flies and you're just having so much fun with somebody. That's when we're really present. So, think about that feeling. For example, when you're on the beach on vacation, you're sitting in the sun, you're enjoying doing nothing. You're just enjoying being there. There are no cares in the world. We're just soaking it all up, right? We're super present. Just put yourself in a situation where you have been really present. And just think about how that feels. I automatically just feel really calm and warm, envisioning the sun coming at me. And in times like that, we're really conscious of what we're doing, right? We're pausing, we're making decisions that we're glad that we've made. So how can we start to bring this into our day-to-day life? So there's this really great quote, which I say is like the secret sauce of mindfulness, which is summarized by Stephen Covey based on Viktor Frankl's teachings. And the quote says that between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. This is a pretty powerful quote. And every day we're faced with thousands of stimuluses, right? Ranging from the temperature of our coffee. If it's too hot, we might feel angry. Maybe an email that we receive from a coworker. Maybe your child asking for a snack in the middle of a web meeting. Or even having to decide what to cook for dinner, among all these other feelings and emotions. So it's really important to understand what the stimuluses are so that we can take advantage of that space in between to actually choose how we want to respond. And also to choose this independent of the previous moment, because it's a decision in itself. This is really important because, say for example, we get angry at our partner when they had asked what to take out of the freezer for dinner. And we get angry because we were triggered by a call that we just had with a teammate, for example. Right? It's easy for these moments to kind of flow into each other. And when we're on autopilot and we're just moving through, we don't really realize that that a stimulus is a stimulus, and that there's this space, and how to capture that space so that we can choose how to respond with a bit more confidence and ease and clarity. Because we don't want to be making decisions from anxiety and fear, right? So how can we communicate with courage and compassion? So this quote is great, but how do we make this a reality for ourselves? How do we get off of autopilot and into that space between stimulus and response? I have a way. And as it turns out, there is this great way that we can move off of autopilot, and we need a practice. And this is where training in mindfulness comes in. So a simple definition of mindfulness is being aware in the present moment. So to tie it back to that quote, being aware of the stimulus which can trigger us, and being aware of how we want to respond. When we're aware, this can help us to notice ourselves if we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling stressed or maxed out. And it helps us to tune into an awareness of ourselves, as well as an awareness of our environment and like what's happening and going on around us. Another simple way to explain mindfulness is the movement from autopilot to aware, right? So we talked about all those different autopilot traits and how we want to move to a space of being aware. So this is really the goal here. When we root ourselves in this present moment, we free ourselves from being on autopilot so that we're not worried about the past or the future. And this is where a lot of our overwhelm, anxieties, and fears come from. When we're present, that's all there is, right? And it can feel like a really freeing and liberating moment. If we think back to that moment when you're on the beach, right? And you're present there and you're enjoying the sun and you're sipping your pina colada, there are no worries. You're just there. So just to give a quick recap, we've talked about how we're trying to navigate through this extra VUCA world right now and how we get caught in this space of being on autopilot. So let's talk about how this training in mindfulness happens. How can we practice being aware? So there are two kind of main buckets of practices. There are integrated practices and dedicated practices. So we'll talk about dedicated practices first. And dedicated practices are practices that that we take time out of our day to go and do. So it's kind of like going to the gym, right? You take time out of your day from doing whatever it is you're doing to go and be at the gym. And we actually did a very short dedicated practice already at the beginning of our session. We did what I will call an arrival practice. And what we did here was bring our focus of attention together to one object. And being focused helps us be present with what we're doing, whether that's work or on a call or we're engaged with children, tasks at home. When we practice these, they don't just serve us during the practice. We actually reap the benefits because it overflows into other areas of our lives. So think about when you're at the gym and you're doing, 500 bicep curls, or even 10 bicep curls. And within a month, you realize that you can now carry 3 more grocery bags than when you used to before, right? So likewise, you get stronger in one space, but you reap the benefits in other areas. And imagine implementing this arrival practice. It can be like a minute to arrive at the beginning of meetings, right? Just 60 seconds. We did about 90, but it can be 60 seconds and it can be really casual. It doesn't have to be this formal thing of, okay, now we're going to sit and we're going to meditate together and, being all stiff. If, you as the person who's running this meeting, it can be integrated really, really casually as just by saying, okay, I just need a minute before we begin. So we need to train ourselves to be in the present moment because we're so often planning for the future, scheduling meetings, planning dinner, or we're worried about what happened previously. Maybe how many chocolate bars you ate at lunch. So we need tools to help us to be present because, simply put, we really just don't do it enough. So I've shared a dedicated practice, and now I'm going to share with you an integrated micro practice. And it's a micro practice because it's just, it's integrated into your day. It's something that you can kind of whip out whenever you need. Most of the time, nobody even knows that you're doing them. And I really want to highlight that moving from autopilot to aware is really simple and practical. And there are many ways to do it. It can sound like a daunting conceptual thing, but mindfulness practices that I share make these concepts practical and technical to do. So here's one that we can try now. It's called a 3-breath practice. And I call it seize the moment instead of the day because the day is made up of many moments. And it's a 3-breath practice. So on the first breath, what we do is bring awareness to our breath or an object. On the second breath, relax the body. So maybe dropping the shoulders, releasing the jaw. And on the third breath, ask yourself what's important now. So I'll invite you all to either close your eyes or lower your gaze, whatever you're comfortable with. And just try this. So remember, the first breath is to bring awareness to your breath or an object. The second is to relax the body. And the third is to ask yourself what's important now. Okay, you can open your eyes and bring your awareness back to our space. This is a really great little micro practice that we can use in so many different applications. I use it all the time. You can add post-it notes to your mirrors or computer screens as just reminders, and it's a really great short way to bring your focus back to the moment right away. And if there's anything that you remember from this entire session, if there's just one thing that you take away, it's this practice. And also how you feel right now. So just take a mental note of how you're feeling at this moment. And maybe explore in your mind, different ways that you can apply this practice, where you can apply this practice. This helps me when I need to send kind of a challenging email that might be difficult to hit the send button on. But if I bring myself back, okay, what's important? I need to, get this message across. Or if I'm faced with several different things coming at me at the same time and I kind of frantically between all these different pieces and I'm distracted, right? I'm on autopilot. I do this practice and then I'll say, okay, what's actually important to me right now? It's almost like a reprioritization in my mind, right? So now that we've all had experienced a bit of a taste, if you think about this in the context of your workplace, I'd like to hear from you in the poll. Latif, if you can launch poll number 3, what it is that your company needs now. Let's take a moment and enter something in here. What would your company benefit from right now? And you can choose more than one answer. We'll give a couple seconds here. Okay, let's close up the poll and see what results came back. Let's see. Okay, spending more time more effectively. Yeah, and a happier team. I love that. Okay. Yeah, spending time more effectively. Absolutely. I think that's really crucial right now, with, as I mentioned, all the different ways that our minds are being pulled in so many different directions at this moment. How can we be more effective with our time and be fully engaged with our time? Because when we're more engaged with the task at hand and what we're doing, you're going to be more effective with what it is that you're doing at that moment. So let's talk about how this works on the level of what's happening in our brains and a little bit of the research around it. So as you can see from this chart, research on mindfulness has exploded over the last 10 to 15 years. And a lot of this research has been about neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity is the finding by neuroscience that what we do, think, and pay attention to can change the structure and function of our brain. So the more we repeatedly do something, the stronger that region of our brain becomes. And this is how habits are formed. This also means that the more of these integrated micro practices that we can do to be present, the more repetition is happening in our brains, and the stronger we are wired to navigate certain situations with these habits already in place. So that means it can be easier for us to become present, or to recall a tool to actually use it then. So with this knowledge about our brains, we can learn to work with them versus against them. We can work with them by applying these tools and practices that support us. So a great study that was done that I found really interesting by Brewer et al., it looked at the default mode network. And this is the network in the brain that's associated with mind wandering and self-referential thinking, when we're thinking about ourselves, and also thinking about what others think of us. So kind of get into that comparison mind. And rumination. So it got its name because neuroscientists found that this is what seemed to be active. This region of the brain was active by default when we're just kind of sitting, and if you're just chilling on the couch, this is the default mode of what kicks in. And it was found that the default mode network is less active during meditation, which suggests a greater ability to avoid ruminating and worrying about oneself. In addition, experienced meditators had greater connectivity between this network and regions of the central executive network, which is related to attention management. So that means that we have a greater capacity to monitor and manage mind wandering and self-rumination. So after hearing all of this, you may not be surprised to see that these are some of the benefits of applying mindfulness practices. So to recap, we've talked about why mindfulness is important and relevant right now, because we're in this heightened VUCA world, and we often get stuck in the space of being on autopilot. We also spoke about how to practice mindfulness, so understanding the concept of neuroplasticity, and also engaging in dedicated and integrated practices to find these benefits that you see on the screen in front of you now. So let's talk about how you can support your team to find and reap these benefits. So there was a study done at Google that was interested to find out what made an effective team. They anticipated that characteristics like a mix of personalities, departments, skills would make up this dream team. And they conducted over 200 interviews with different employees and looked at 200 plus characteristics and attributes. And what they found was that who is on a team matters less than how the team members view their contributions, structure their work, and also interact. So when we feel safe interacting with others, we feel a sense of connectedness, right, with other people in our team. And empathy is our awareness of others and directly our ability to connect with others. So empathy appears to be the foundation of effective teamwork in this, the zone of psychological safety that you can see was the top piece. It's about how we can take risks on this team with feeling secure and not embarrassed if, mistakes and things come up. And this comes from from having empathy and building this level of empathy. So what does all of this mean to you? What this means is now is the time to invest in your employees and provide them with tangible and relatable tools that they can realistically fit into their already hectic day, so that it can bring a slice of calmness, feeling of less stress, and ability to make sound decisions and engage in effective communication. So when you invest in your employees, they begin or continue to trust you as workplaces that care for their mental health and their overall well-being. This happens by empowering them with tools to look after themselves and their families during this time. And this will also provide some peace of mind for you and your leadership in knowing that your team members have some tools in their tool belt to care for themselves. And this is going to increase the trust as teams navigate through this time together, because really we're all in this together. So, the increase in communication will build this connection between teammates and between managers and teams as well. And we've seen that this connection and level of communication that can be increased through empathy is crucial for psychological safety and for teams to thrive. So a reduce in overwhelm means increased productivity. Feeling less stressed means less mistakes and a reduced number of absences from work. An ability to make sound decisions means that they will spend more of their time effectively, which we saw in the poll is crucial right now. And effective team communication for trust can result in a thriving and happier team, which we also talked about in our poll results as being high up there. So all of this leads to a positive impact to your bottom line. It's really what it comes down to. So to solve the challenges that we spoke about of overwhelm, and to bring these benefits that I mentioned to your teams, I'm offering a 1-hour interactive workshop with myself. And it will include a deeper dive into what we spoke about today. So mindfulness and a module on empathy as well, as we've seen that empathy is vital for successful teams and for connection with others. And within this, there will be tools to manage overwhelm, tools to build connection virtually, how to get through the day with more ease and hope, and also how to understand how these practices work on a neurological level. So to the people on the call today, if you book within the next hour, I am offering this workshop at a discounted rate of $1,000. If you're interested, please book through the Calendly link that Latif is going to drop into our chat just now. And you can use the code when you book, my kick-ass team, and that will ensure that you get the discounted rate. So if you're not sure, or you need to follow up with someone else in your workplace to make this decision, please book a 20-minute follow-up call through the link as well. And, get them on the line too. I'm happy to discuss and jump on a call to see what's really going to be the best fit for your organization. I'm really passionate about bringing these practices out and these resources out to bring value to you and your team, to really support us during this time right now, as well as we move forward. So on that note, I'm happy to open up the next few minutes for questions. Latif, do we have any questions that have come through? Let's chat about them.
Hi. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay. So yes. So we had a question from Leo in regards to one of your earliest slides that talked about the statistics. You showed 70%,
yeah.
2%, that slide.
Yeah.
And the question was, the statistic shows it's from 2010. How do those statistics apply today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So I haven't checked that specific resource, but from all my sources within our Search Inside Yourself community, those statistics are still very similar, and as of right now as well are heightened at this time. So it's even higher. And even as we saw in the poll results, we want to find ways to be more effective with our time because we are feeling distracted and we're kind of pulled in all these different directions, which means that our mind is just wandering more, right? And we're in the state of being heightened distractions. So hopefully that answers that question. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, give me one sec. Another question is, what has been some of the feedback from teams that you've delivered workshops to at the previous places you've mentioned?
Absolutely, yeah. So specifically, there has been, like with the Search Inside Yourself course that I deliver, which is a full 2-day course, there's been, it's a 2-day live course, and there's also 28-day challenges that come, like daily email challenges, to kind of really reinforce the practices and the habits that we talk about in the 2-day live. So there is a large difference in, we do like a pre-test and a post-test, and we see a really high difference in levels of stress. So high differences in lower levels of stress, as well as the ability to manage stress. Specific questions around taking the time to respond before, like taking that space between a stimulus and a response to really engage and be there fully and respond. So that has heightened. So imagine if we all took, like if the whole world took more time to think about a response before we respond, right? And a really great example of this is, imagine you're driving down the street and someone cuts you off. We have a very automatic response to that, right? Fingers are flying and words are coming out. So that's just in that one scenario. And imagine how many other places that this is happening. So in all the different, workshops that I've done, there has been a very clear, outcome to reduce of overwhelm, reduced stress, increase in these tools that people have to actually take more charge of their day and their life, and to feel more confident when we're interacting with teams. So those are just some of them. But I have like a whole, there's kind of a snapshot summary of these numbers and statistics and some of these more tangible outcomes. So I'd be happy to share that. If we know who's asked that question, I'd be happy to send that over and share that out.
For sure. There's one other question on the difference between meditation and mindfulness.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. That's actually a really common one. So meditation is a form of mindfulness. So it's a practice of mindfulness. It's essentially just a mental training that we can engage in to help us to be more present. Though there are several different types of meditations that we can engage in, it kind of depends on what it is we're trying to cultivate or work on. But that's kind of the main difference, is that mindfulness is the main umbrella and meditation is a practice. It's a dedicated practice. Just like the micro practices are a different type of practice under mindfulness. So hopefully that clarifies that.
Perfect. I think we're timing out here.
Okay, awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much to everybody who has joined in today. Again, as I mentioned, there's 1 hour to book at this discounted rate. So please go ahead through the Calendly link and book. If there are any other questions, please feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to chat, jump on a call. And I hope everybody has a great and calm rest of their Wednesday. So thank you so much for joining, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, dear.
Bye. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you.